Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Barkley Hagan. I'm the Director of Client Care for OnPoint, and this morning we have Mike Pazynski here to share some Sage 300 CRE report designer tips and tricks that he's learned through his years of using Sage. With that, Mike, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks, Barkley. Okay, so yeah, thanks and thank you. Like Barkley said, tips and tricks, and we compress this into a very short time frame. You know, everybody's time is valuable. The idea being you'll have this video to watch, and then if you want the report that we designed, please email Barkley and let her know, and we're happy to send that to you. All right, let me page down. Real brief, what we're trying to do, and we're trying to repeat basically what we did and what was asked for during the last, I don't know if we would call it downturn, if that's what we refer to this as, but we're approaching the need to transform into what the market's becoming. For a lot of companies, it's they cannot grow fast enough. There are various things that are keeping them from growing. Others, they're not sure where they stand on their jobs. And so as an advisory group, we're addressing that and helping companies with those issues that help them to, or can be an impediment to transforming into what's next to serve that market. And so in this case, we're helping with what we describe as real-time job costing. And before I get into these objectives, you know, what is real-time job costing? And I go back to my CFO days in the construction business, and it'll be different things to different companies, but it will include for most of us, you know, what are my costs today, now on this job, as well as projected estimated completion. It'll be what's my projected profit. You know, if I look at my costs today, that's great. That's like a scorecard. I'm in the sixth inning of a baseball game. I need to know my projected profit though, where I think I'll end after the ninth inning. That will flush out issues that then can be addressed while the job's happening versus, you know, 3 months after the job, which how many of us have had to deal with that? Is my billing current? That affects so many things from cash flow to customer relationships. And then what's my backlog, the all important backlog, which leads to, do I need resources? Do I have enough resources to cover my backlog? And how many months overhead does my backlog cover? We need that. We need that on an ongoing basis. So when we talk about real-time job costing, these are some of the fundamentals that are needed that I know that a lot of folks may or may not have. So specific objectives today that feed that result or those results are, we're going to look at some consultant tips and tricks to approaching formulas. Believe it or not, this will keep it simple, and it's going to break things up for troubleshooting. When I remember sitting in a hotel in the mid 90s, maybe the 98 or so, working through this with another consultant, and then the light bulb went on. Yes, this is the way we're going to do it, and we've been doing it that way since then. And it helps, again, keep it simple and making it easy to troubleshoot. We'll also look at commonly used approach, and I'll explain that as we go, and then formulas that can really trip you up, but that are needed, especially for real-time job costing. Specifically, how to approach a date-sensitive report that uses percent calculations. There's some gotchas there, and you're talking to the king here, so king of gotchas. So we'll cover that, and then the a sum if, and then the percent formula. Those are some keys that you'll want to be aware of, and that's going to kind of be the basic tools in your toolbox you use for report designing, and then other tips and tricks as we go along. So yeah, let's jump in here. I'm going to minimize that. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring over the report design that I did. All right. So when I run this, I'll just leave it at the current file. You'll notice it defaults to the current file, but I can also pick the new and or history files if I want archive stuff, and I'll hit OK. And then really important, I'm going to hit page setup, and I'm going to tell it I want the cover page. So I'll hit OK and preview, and let's take a look at what we'll be talking about today. This is a tips and trips WIP report Very important. It's telling us the files used. When you're looking at a report and it's the next day or the next week, you're going, ooh, did I include unposted transactions or did I look at archived information? You kind of need to know that. If you print a cover page, you've got that, you know what's included. And then comments, we're the report designers, we're the technical people trying to interpret what users are asking for to the data that's behind the scenes, right? And then give an explanation as to what it is and what it isn't. So tips and tricks, put these comments on the report. Number one, people will know what they have. And I think more importantly, it will get people thinking about what could I do that might make this better. It just gets people in that thinking mode. So I said this report shows you all trans that are in the system. I spelled that real well. If you choose new, if you choose just the current only, you're only getting posted. So then that's really clear. How many of us have worked with project managers and had this conversation over and over and over again? They don't know the data, they don't need to, but they need a simple explanation as to whether you've included unposted and or not. And then they've got it right in front of them. And you might change the verbiage, but the concept. And then kind of little feelers. I can add a date prompt if you want to. And then also I said, if you choose history, you'll get archived job information. And how valuable would that be to estimators or to PMs that don't know they can get archived job information on reports? I mean, if they need that for like jobs in the future, that little tidbit of information might make them realize they've got a report and they can get that. What could that mean to your company? So then I'll jump into the report then, and then this is basically the blocking and tackling of a WIP report. I've got, revised contract, and I'm in the sample data, by the way, construction sample data. I believe strongly in putting in there the pending schedule value changes. This can be really important if you've got some concerns about a bank looking at this or about meeting debt obligations with financial statement numbers. And I think that the people who use this report need to know what's pending because you may want to pull some of this in. All right. And then I've got, of course, the revised estimate and estimated profit. All right. And then the gross profit percent. And I'll hold this back for just a second. And then if we keep going here, there he is. I've got my gross profit percent, and then I've got my estimated cost at completion. Some of us call that projected cost, estimate at completion, but it's where we think we'll land when the job is closed, okay? So I've got my gross profit on the estimate, and then I've got my projected estimate with my projected gross profit and projected percent. When we do contract CFO and controller work, the first thing I do when I run these reports is I kind of run my fingers down and I'm comparing this number to this number. Why did it go from 11.3 to 10.7? Now I might know that, but I need to know that, right? On this job, we started out at 6 and it bumped up to 13. Number one, is that accurate? Am I missing cost, or did we have change orders that really bumped it up? All right, same thing on the 7.7 to the 9.9. All right, on these other jobs, we don't have all the information in the system, so they're not giving me everything I need. All right, now incidentally, I can do some things to eliminate or suppress these numbers if I don't have all the data, but for right now, I just left that in there. But maybe tips and tricks, you can do if statements to suppress this if you don't have all the data behind the scenes. All right, then as I go along, I've got here's my projected percent where we left. Then I've got my job to date cost, right? And then the percent complete, which is the cost divided by my estimate at completion. Okay, here's my percent complete. Now I know what I've earned, which is my percent complete times my revised contract. And I know what I've billed. Billed and cost, they just fall out of accounting, right? So here's what I've earned. Here's what I've billed my customers or my clients. And now I've got my over under entry. And yes, for GAAP, these need to be 2 columns, but I was I wanted to keep it simple as I could, so I just made them 1 for now, okay? But notice that I did explain, what does a bracket mean? It means we're under. I think that's another tip and trick. Answer the questions before they're asked. Keep it simple. And then I've got my contract backlog. Oh, I didn't change my percents to make that 2 characters. I'll show you how to do that. That'll be another tip and trick when we run into this. But now I've got my contract backlog. All right, telling me I need 3.8 in resources. All right, for my current jobs. And then also, if I know I've got an average, whatever it is, percent complete or percent profit, I know how much overhead I've got covered. So if I've only got 5 months overhead covered, we need to tell our estimators to bid pretty aggressively. We need work to fill out that backlog, right? Or conservatively, I said aggressively, conservatively. Whereas if we've got 12 or 18 months backlog covered, I'm going to tell our estimators, you can get pretty aggressive here and go for some higher margins, because we've got enough backlog covered to cover overhead for 12 or 18 months. Now, how important a business decision is that? I mean, just knowing real time what that looks like, so that you can be having that impact on how you're bidding with your customers. We need this information. All right, so let's look at the report, if I could talk, and talk about how I approached it. So if we look at, when you start a report, you grab the files. The only table I grabbed, if I go index, was the JC transaction. Everything I needed was on the JC tran. I made a decision when I started this that this could be date sensitive. All right, so I grabbed the tran. Also for larger organizations, and we've worked with a lot of Sarbanes-Oxley companies, publicly held, where there's more integrity in transactional data, they grab that as a policy. We always grab transactional because there's more integrity there. So if you're a large company with that concern, that's the approach, okay? Then I started building my formulas out. Now, just kind of thinking at a high level, what I did is I said, what is a contract transaction? What is a pending change? What is an estimate transaction? And so to get there, I looked at available fields. And another name for this is data dictionary, okay? I printed available fields for the JC transaction record, all right? And I was focusing on transaction types. There are 35 different types of transactions in your JCT, job cost transaction table. Now, if I just printed a report and I said, give me the amount of the transactions, it's going to be meaningless. I'll get estimates, and I'll get production units, and I'll get committed cost changes, and I'll get cost and miscellaneous worksheets, okay? So what we have to do is limit the data on our report to the transaction types we want when we drive through that JC transaction table. All right, now how did I get this or know this? I went over to Report Designer, and I went to Tools, into Available Fields. I found the job cost transaction and I printed it, and that's how I got here. All right, now let's focus on the tran type and then the special designator, the special characters that identify the different types of transactions that would be used in Report Designer. Incidentally, if you're in Crystal, you'd be using the extended descriptions. All right, so just burn into memory, I'm looking at tran types and then the designator for the type, and then I'll show you what that means. So tips and tricks. What we do when we're designing, especially complex reports, I'm gonna pop over to design, well, I'm gonna pop over to design formulas this way, tools, formulas, and I'm looking at my design formulas. Berkeley, is this big enough to where you can see it?
It's pretty small.
Yeah, mine is too. I didn't do that little. You may want to blow this up when you play back. If not, let us know. Just contact us at clientcare@onpointtestsoftware.com, and then we'll show you that at the end, and we'll expand on this with you. But what I did, just grab the concept here, is I made what we call qualification formulas. Like, what's a qualification of a build formula? Well, the transaction type is either work build or work retainage build. All right. What's a cost? We're going to come back to him in a moment. What is estimate at completion? I said the tran type is miscellaneous worksheet 2, MW2. And I'm looking at that available field printout as I'm getting this information. What's a revised schedule value change or a pending schedule value change? Well, the tran type is PSVC. So I made Q formulas, qualification formulas that identify what all these are. What's a revised contract? Well, it's where the tran type is either SV or ASVC, approved schedule value change. The beauty of this is you make these formulas one time and then you embed them where you need them. All right. And it just takes a lot of the brain pain out. And it's also a lot more efficient because you can then copy formulas as you're creating them. So let's pop back into formulas. The first thing I did and burn this into memory is I made, well, the first column on my report was revised contract, okay? And so I made that. Now, let's talk about how to approach a report where you've got formulas or computations on it, and if it's date sensitive. Picture an Excel spreadsheet. If it was a master file report, you've got a job and it's a flat table. You've got a job and then the accumulation of scheduled value and the accumulation of costs. Those are one numbers. Those are single fields. With a tran-based report, it's not that way. Picture an Excel spreadsheet where you've got a column for the scheduled value and a column for the estimate and a column for the estimated completion. Well, what do you want to do if you want to make a percent computation like percent gross profit or percent complete? Well, you've got an Excel spreadsheet with all these rows of information, all the scheduled value amounts, all the cost amounts, and you're telling the system, make a percent. The system's going to make that evaluation on the first record it finds on each column, and you're going to have junk. Okay. What we have to do is we have to roll up everything to the job level. So you might have 10 scheduled value transactions. You have maybe 10 billing items. And you might have 2,000 cost transactions. You got to roll those all up to the job. And then we make the computations on those roll up totals. Okay. And that's what this does. We go a sum, which means sum it up. And then this next field is job. Break at the job. A sum, accumulating function, a sum up to the job. Break at the job. Okay. And then I said, if it's a revised contract, and that was that design formula I embedded, then give me the amount. In plain English, it says, add up and give me one row of information for the job and look at all the transactions that are in the JC transactions, all 35 types. But if that tran type is revised contract, included in that total, and give me that amount field. And that's all that's doing. So I said, give me the revised contract. And then the beautiful part of this is when I wanted to do the revised estimate, I copied the revised estimate, and I'm just going to call this a temporary formula. The beautiful part is you can go, copy, and then I hit F2 to save. And then, by the way, the system is smart. It knows you might want to modify that. So I just hit enter. And then I replaced qualified contract, and I indexed over then to my design formulas. And I said, in that case, give me the estimate. And that's just a really fast way to design this formula to a sum and then just copy it for the different columns. It's so much more efficient than typing everything out and trying to get that syntax right. And we've all been there typing that out. That'd be a ton of syntax if I didn't have that embedded formula in there. Where do my commas go? Where do my brackets go? You know, we've never been there. I'm going to escape there. So huge tip and trick on how to be efficient there. So I placed then that revised contract here, and then I did the same thing with a memo of pending changes, and then my revised estimate. My estimated profit was a formula. Incidentally, another tip and trick, if I want to get to that formula, I could go, now where is he? I think he's in tools, formulas, or I can highlight it and just go Alt-LF. Use those hotkeys. And this is how you get things done fast. And how did I know that? I'm going to hit the escape key. Under tools, the L should be underlined. It must have something to do with the presentation here. So I can go Alt-L to get to tools, and then F for formula, and then boom, I'm here. And I'm on estimated profit because that's where my cursor was. So Alt-LF, boom, I'm here, and I can maybe check. It's the revised contract, which was a formula, minus the revised estimate. And I'll hit escape. So we've covered a sum ifs, and also we've covered some tips and tricks on how to do formulas quickly, but more importantly, a naming convention to keep things simple, especially for troubleshooting. Now, this percent was interesting. I'm going to go Alt-LF. Instead of doing the division and all that stuff, there's a function called percent, PRCNT, open, and then I said, give me a percent of the estimated profit formula, comma, the revised contract, end, and end bracket. Just like a sum if, just like all of the other functions, if you go to the help files, these things are spelled out. The syntax is spelled out along with examples. That's a great resource for you. Use those help files on these functions, formulas and functions. So automatically then that percent formula gave me that gross profit percent. Now notice that we don't have it for the total because it would be kind of meaningless for the total. Another tip and trick, the way I eliminated him for the total is I went to that column for gross profit percent and I highlighted that field. I'll highlight this one. And I said, I unchecked total this field. Actually, I think I went up here and unchecked total the field. And then I eliminated that because it was meaningless. So as we go across, estimated cost of completion, I'll go Alt-LF. He's simply summing at the job. If it's a qualifying estimated cost of completion, give me the amount. Now, that's that can be a variable for many people, which miscellaneous worksheet you choose to use. I'm going to go down to a qualifying ECAC formula. And I said the tran type was miscellaneous worksheet 2, and that lines up with the sample data. And so then, as we go across, it's really more of the same. Projected gross profit was a computation of the revised contract minus the estimate at completion. And then the profit percent was another PRCNT function. Job to date cost, he's an interesting one. If I go to that formula, I said a sum if, it's a Q cost. In other words, it's going to look at every transaction on all 35 types, and it's going to go, if this results in a true, give me the amount. If it results in a false, don't give me the amount. Well, what does that mean? It results in a true. So if I go to that Q cost, it means that the JC cost tran condition, and that's a formula, all right? That's a JC formula. It resulted in a value of true. So it goes through every transaction. It goes, hey, are you one of these? And it's going to be yes or no. And if it's yes, it comes into the formula. On this report, I could have said tran type is equal to APC or AP cost. Tran type is equal to JC cost, or tran type equal to, well, instead of typing all that out for cost, he's an exception. There's a canned report, there's a baked It's got a canned formula. There's a baked in formula for JC cost transactions. If I index out to JC formulas, you see there's only 3 here. And it was the JC cost tran condition. That's got the logic of it's either AP or it's payroll or it's equipment or it's inventory or it's whatever. Okay. So it was a little shortcut I took. All right, as I go across, there are just simply more formulas and computations. What I really like about you doing your own WIP report like this is it's specific to you. Some companies may want some of these columns, some companies may want others. Everything you need is in the JC transaction. And with this formula convention now, you can look at, oh, where did that little rascal go? You can look at these and go, well, which ones do I need? If someone wants to see your committed costs, just because, that doesn't enter into a WIP report. It's actually got nothing to do with a WIP report other than they may want to see it when they do the projection. But if they want to see it, if someone wants to see it, you can include that by doing a qualified formula on the CCST and then embedding that on the formula that says a sum if qualified committed cost, which looks at this, then give me the amount. I said comma, you could tell I did that. So that's the beauty of this approach, is you're looking at the one table that's got everything available, and then you're building it out from there. Okay, so we'll take another peek then at the output, my contract, my changes, estimate, profit, percent, projected profit, projected gross profit. Falling out of accounting, my cost, and now my percent complete. Based on that, what I've earned versus what I've billed is my over under. And a lot of people, a lot of CFOs go right to the backlog, or controllers or owners right to the backlog. What have I got covered? I need to know that. Now you've got this real, I need to put some commas and remove some. Actually, let's just do that right now. So tips and tricks to remove or to adjust the decimals. I'm going to highlight that field, double click it, and I've got the length and the decimal places. I'll make the decimal 2. And I have to do it on the amount on the report and then also the total field. And another tip and trick, save and save often in Report Designer, and review and approve it, so to speak, or confirm it as you go. It makes it a lot easier, okay? Another tip and trick is when you do these reports, when you're running them, compare these numbers to a canned report. This might be the best tips and tricks that we covered today. Keeps us out of trouble, and we do the same thing. We do these things and we compare it to a canned report. Did I miss something? Okay. A lot of times I'll just look at a total. All right, let's pop back over to that PowerPoint. Here you are. So recap, we looked at a clean, scalable, and a maintainable approach to this report. Everything through JCT, job cost transactions, formulas that tell you what is a cost transaction, what is a scheduled value transaction, what is a projection, and then embedding those in a sum ifs. And then something, it's just an easier to digest syntax. You've got less moving parts. Eat the elephant a bite at a time. And then we talked about a key to these date sensitive reports that use percent formulas. Well, when you're using transaction, is that a sum if, so that all of the evaluations, all of the computations are on the sum of the job in this case. Okay. Those key formulas for that real-time job cost report, let's do a quick review of those formulas. You'll use these over and over and over again. We've got if statements, or we've got qualifying formulas. First of all, is a tran type equal to M2, MW2 is as estimated completion. And then we've got a sum if formulas where it starts off a sum, break it the job. If it's a qualifying revised estimate, in this case, give me the amount. That's just an absolute key formula you need, especially these job reports where you have percent completes and such. And then another tip and trick is if I go over to a percent complete column, I've got percent PRCNT. That's a function, and instead of typing all that out, just a percent open bracket, give me the estimated profit, comma, divided by the revised contract in this case for the percent complete gross profit, the gross profit percent. Sorry, it's kind of, there's some concepts that are borderline intermediate and advanced here, but the use of them and the way we approach it just keeps it simple. All right, where are you, PowerPoint? All right, and then we've covered tips and tricks. Barclay, I actually finished on time. It is noon. I'll hand this off to you, Barclay, to wrap it up.
Okay, and no questions that I can see. So if you do have any questions that you think of as you either you get back to work or you are watching the recording, please feel free to contact us with those. I can be reached at clientcare@onpoint-software.com. Also, to keep up to date with additional events and other resources, please like us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Everybody, thanks for being here and have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Barclay.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.